Well, welcome to South Asian Overground, and I am here with a family friend of mine, Juju. Hello.
Hello.
Juju is the founder of Cloud9 Collective, which is a wellness platform. We finally got to what we're describing you as.
Yeah.
Before the start, we were like, what are you? What are you? I don't know.
I don't know.
Lover of Joe and the Jews.
Literally.
So thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I can't believe when I realized I should get you on, I was like, how have I not asked you to come on this podcast before? It's about South Asians, and
Yeah.
I literally know you. Like, it's so weird. We've known each other
perfect.
forever.
I know. Yeah, it's perfect. I'm excited to be here.
And it was like quite weird because you said that you'd wanted to go on a podcast, and then I asked you, and then bang.
Yeah, it was so weird. I was talking to someone about it last week and I was like, I've not been on a podcast and I'd actually quite like to do that. And then here you are. I manifested it.
Here I am. You manifested me. You manifested this. Okay, so going to kickstart with the question I ask all. I was about to say clients. I don't know why.
What are we doing here?
The question I ask all of my guests, which is, where are you from?
Oh, because okay. I see why. You know what is so funny about this question? Like, there is such a stigma around this question.
Yeah.
And I always say when someone asks me this, because I get asked this all the time, especially if you're out and people are trying to like chat to you, they'll be like, where are you from?
Yeah.
Always reply with, what do you mean? Because I want to know whether do you mean, why are you brown? Or do you mean, where do you live? Like, what's the real question here? If someone asked me that, I guess when you asked me, I'd say Pakistani. If someone out asked me, I'd probably just say London.
So when you say what do you mean? What do people say?
They either say like, where are you from? Which means,
why are you brown?
Yeah. Or like, where do you live? Which is like, okay, fine. I know what you're trying to say.
Why are you stalking me?
Yeah.
Why do you stalk me?
Yeah, why do you want to know where I live?
Why do you follow me home? But it's interesting. You've raised like already some really good points, because you just said that, oh, you're asking me, so I'd say I'm Pakistani because I'm also South Asian.
Yeah.
So it feels more like not hostile or not like invasive. So it matters to you who's asking you. That's how that impacts kind of like how you'll answer the question.
Yeah. And I always, if they want to know where I'm from, I'll always say guess, because no one has ever guessed it right.
Yeah, same. What do people say to you?
I always get like Iranian, Arab, and I get South American a lot.
Yeah, no, but I can see that because I never ever get Indian. I'll get like Spanish, Italian, Brazilian. Sometimes I might get like Iranian or something like that. But never ever South Asian. Like, never.
Same. Never has anyone guessed it right.
And if people guess, they'll say like, oh, you're Indian. And I actually am Indian, but obviously you're Pakistani.
Yes.
So then it's that whole thing of like, oh, well, just because I'm brown doesn't mean that like I'm Indian. There are other things out there,
yeah. If it's South Asian, it's always Indian, never Pakistani. I feel like no one will ever guess Pakistani, ever.
Do you find it like quite a loaded question, or do you find it insulting, or are you not really that bothered?
I don't find it insulting. But I find it quite like funny when people ask, because they never ever actually know.
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't know, I guess everyone thinks I look quite racially ambiguous.
I agree. I like that, racially ambiguous. Ooh, smart.
I'm using big terms.
Big words. Do you find that like guys use it to try and chat you up, to be like, oh, you're so exotic looking?
Yes.
Where are you from?
That's the only reason that they ask, is because you look so exotic. Like, you're not from London. It's like, I'm so tired of this conversation.
I'm from London. I sound like I'm from London. Do you know what I mean? I mean, it is like, if you don't have anything to say to someone, it's a good conversation start.
That's the only one in the handbook.
It's what I do with men. I just talk about football.
Nice.
I'm like, I don't know what else to, like, this is, oh, let me move this pillow. It's annoying me. But it's like with men, sometimes, if say I'm on a date or whatever, and I'm just a bit like, okay, like, this is a bit dead. Let me talk about my fantasy football team. Like,
okay, so you're into football though?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a very good talking point.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I think so.
Well done.
That's not the only reason I started getting into football.
Like,
anyway.
let me get into football so I have a topic of conversation on my dates.
Talk to people. So in terms of your relationship to being South Asian, how connected to it do you feel?
It's always been a really weird one, because like I I grew up like going to schools where everyone was basically white.
Yeah.
Like I went to like all girls schools growing up. So in that context, I always felt very South Asian because I was the South Asian person, or there were like a handful of South Asian people or brown people in the school.
Yeah.
Whereas then when I went into the context of being like with my family, I felt very English.
Right, okay.
So like it depends like on the situation, because in one setting I'm like, yeah, like I definitely feel like I'm South Asian. I feel like I'm not like everyone else in a way. But then when I go to my family, they're like, oh, like you're a bit of a coconut, like
yeah.
Like you don't know how to speak Urdu, like I don't know a lot of the stuff. I am like quite Western in the way that I was brought up to them. But then to all my friends from school, they're like, oh my God, your parents are so strict. So it's like, it's always been kind of neither here nor there. Like, I don't know.
I get you. It's kind of interesting because I also grew up similarly to you, like basically the only brown person at my school for at least the first sort of, I don't know, 10 years of being at school. And weirdly enough, it made me feel almost like it like diluted my brownness.
Yeah.
So I find it interesting for you that I made it more prominent because, and actually that makes so much sense because you're sticking out because you've got different skin colour essentially and a different culture and a different religion than what other people are used to. So that will make you feel more that kind of way. But a lot of people on this podcast I've spoken to have talked about similar things of in one environment you feel really South Asian and in another environment you don't. It's quite weird.
It's so weird. And it was never really in like a negative way that I was like, I felt like I didn't want to be from where I'm from. It was never like that. It was more just like I felt the difference in that context, but also my parents were so much more strict. Like I was the one that was known to have the strict parents, wasn't allowed to talk to boys, wasn't allowed to like, I'd like have to secretly sneak out to go to the park to meet someone. Like it was like that. And all my friends' parents were so chill. They were like, I don't get it. Like my boyfriend's allowed to stay over. I'm like, even now?
Yeah.
I would...
No. My boyfriends wouldn't be allowed to stay over. And when like your friends are allowed to have boyfriends that sleep over in the same room, not a chance.
Oh my God.
Not a chance.
I wouldn't want, even if my dad was like, you know what, it's fine. I'd be like, I can't sleep. I'd literally be lying there like, why do I?
No, because like, it's so weird.
Yeah.
It's not, no. And I would be, I'm with you on that one. But it's funny for me though, because we met because I knew is she younger, older cousin?
Like 6 months older, basically the same age.
Your cousin, basically. And her parents are not strict.
Oh, so chill.
Like, the opposite.
Chill. Yeah.
The opposite. They had no choice.
Oh my God.
We won't go into that. But like, so what, do you think your parents were strict because of the religion or just because they're strict?
I think it was probably a mixture of both. Obviously, they're second generation, so their parents were the ones that came over from Pakistan.
Yeah.
They were raised here, but they were raised in a very strict household. So I think it's like they thought they were being super chill compared to their parents.
Sure.
But to us, in the context of our generation, it was like, you're so strict. And they thought they were being really chill, but they obviously weren't. So I think it was also religion, like for my dad. But then I think they kind of realised if you're going to raise kids here, send them to like, you know, a Christian school. Like
I went to a Christian school as well.
Yeah. And we're not a Christian, but we went to a Christian school. And you're going to do all these things, basically put them completely in Western society. You can't expect them to then follow all these rules that just don't work. So I think they got to a point where they were like, they're either going to do it behind our back.
Yeah, 100%.
Or we're going to just kind of let them do it so that we can at least like know what they're doing, know where they are, know that they're safe. But my sister definitely got the brunt of it. She's older, so.
Yeah. I mean, my parents aren't like mad strict, but they do still have those traditions that a lot of South Asian parents have, like not letting your like boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever stay in the same room.
Yeah.
Like they could come on holiday or whatever, but not in the same room. Yeah. And like I remember when I was growing up, I had a boyfriend and he was Pakistani. And
I didn't know that.
And I was always like, I'm never gonna go out with a South Asian boy, and I've literally been out of like 3.
Have you? Oh my God, I say that, but I stick by try it.
But we're from the same area in Manchester, and we could never ever stay over at each other's houses at all. Like, obviously we wouldn't even stay in separate rooms at each other's houses because that'd be weird because we live in the same area. But whereas so many of my other friends that are like not South Asian would just find that so weird. But when I have kids, I'm probably going to do the same.
Yeah.
Because there's just some things. So I think your parents sort of had to find the middle ground.
For sure,
for you guys, and it is really difficult, especially if they've grown up with parents who are like strict and implementing quite a lot of traditions. You know, do your mum and dad bring a lot of kind of the South Asian or like the Pakistani culture and traditions into your and your sister's lives?
Mum, I'm sorry, because I know she's going to listen to this and get annoyed, but not really. I mean, they are quite westernized themselves. They can switch on the South Asian as soon as they're in that
in that environment
setting. Like, they're fully in there. They're talking in Urdu. Like, they know all the jokes. Like, but on a day-to-day, they're not really like, they don't live like that. The only thing is the food. Like, for sure, we have the food. The food is delicious, and dal is like my favorite ever.
It's the best. It's absolutely. Can you make dal?
Yes, but not as good as my mum. You know your mum's dal. It just hits.
It hits different. Yeah. Well, that actually segues me quite nicely onto the next thing I want to ask you, which is, I'm not assuming that you want to have kids, but I'm saying, say you did.
I do, so that's
perfect. What elements of your like culture would you want to pass on to them? I guess we kind of said it, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I find it really sad when I think about this because I don't know how to speak Urdu. Yeah. I used to beg my parents to teach me. I was like, please teach me how to speak. I was like 6 years old asking them to teach me how to speak this language. But they speak English to each other, so they just like, it never happened.
Yeah.
So the language is lost, which sucks. I'm really sad about that. But I feel like the parts of the culture that I absolutely love are like the dress, like, oh my god, the fashion, love it. The food, 100%. The religion I definitely want to bring into like my children's lives as well. But I do think about it and I'm like, oh, I'm not that cultured, so they're gonna be even less
cultured.
Like, unless I marry like some hardcore Pakistani, which is
not gonna happen.
So, yeah.
I think I'd be exactly the same as you, though. Those aspects that I'd want to, like, carry on to my children as well. And also you're not having a sleepover with your boyfriend or girlfriend. No. Would you feel the same way if you had a son, though?
See, this is the sticking point. Like,
yeah.
I always used to say this to my parents. I was like, if I was a boy, it would be so different. Like, all of my cousins are allowed to do whatever they want.
My brother's allowed.
Oh, well,
I was like, what the hell?
What's the difference?
What the hell?
Yeah, it's so unfair. I feel like there needs to be the same rule for both. Yeah. It is really, I used to get so annoyed about that my boy cousins could do whatever they wanted. They could have girlfriends, they could stay out late, they could go to parties, and we weren't allowed to do any of that.
Yeah.
It was,
Even your girl cousins.
Yeah. Yeah, literally. I was like, why is everyone else allowed to have fun?
All right, so I want to talk to you about this post I saw that you reposted on Instagram, which is what made me think, oh my God, you need to come on the podcast. Yes. It was I don't remember which account it was, like who the Instagram platform is, but the thing that they'd written was like things that should have been told to brown girls, and it was like a slideshow.
Yes.
And I want to ask you, are there any like brown girl life hacks that you wish you'd known when you were younger that you now like have and that you might want to share?
You know what? I think my biggest one, just a life hack, which is like a light, easy, fun one, is like I did not know how to do my hair. Like natural hair. Like I didn't know how to, I mean, my hair's obviously like straight right now, but I had no idea until maybe like 5 years ago that my hair is actually curly. It's like ringlet curls.
Right.
I had no idea, because when we grow up, it's like, just put frizzies on your hair and straighten it and you'll be fine.
You'll be fine.
Whereas like, actually, if you learn how to do your hair properly, which I feel like in like our community we're really not taught because our parents weren't taught.
No,
just like straighten your hair, blow dry your hair.
Yeah.
If you learn how to do your hair properly, it's like beautiful.
Yeah.
It can really go into ringlets. I had no idea. I was in shock when I found out about this.
How did you realise?
Well, I have friends who are black, and one of them was like to me one day, you know, if you put like this product in your hair, like Cantu, shout out Cantu. She was like, if you put Cantu in your hair, it's going to go into like proper curls. I was like, no, my hair is just like frizz. It's not curls. I put it in and I was like, what on earth? Like, how have I been missing out on this my whole life?
Cantu, it's called.
Yeah.
Okay, anyone listening, get Cantu.
Yeah.
Get it right now.
It's so good. Scrunch it through your hair.
And it makes it like nice and curly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's true. Like, I didn't learn any of these kind of things, you know? And I don't know if it's sort of, for me, I feel a bit like, oh, well, I'm like half English, half Indian. So like, maybe I don't need these hacks because like, I'm not fully Indian, but you know. No.
Yeah, no, you do.
Sure. Talking of which, do you ever feel like imposter syndrome-y? Because my cousin came on this podcast, my cousin Lily, like I think it was like the first episode I ever did of season 1, and she was like, oh, I can't come on your podcast, I'm not really South Asian. I was like, you're literally my cousin. Like, you're literally exactly like me, half English, half Indian. You are South Asian. But she's like, yeah, but like, I don't have anything to say about it. And I definitely feel like that in so many ways, that I don't know enough about it. But this is kind of the purpose of this podcast as well, is for me to learn as well, and also to be open about the fact that a lot of people maybe are South Asian and don't feel that South Asian, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But do you feel like that ever?
For sure. When I'm around other South Asians, I feel like I am not cultured enough. Apart from, I mean, Laurel, you know, she's worse than me.
Yeah, well, 100%.
But my other side of all of my other cousins are like very cultured, and
Your family's quite religious, isn't it?
Really? Some people are, yeah. It depends on the person.
Depends on who you're talking to.
Yeah, it does depend, because some of them are a bit wild. But yeah, in front of like certain people, I do feel imposter syndrome, and I also sometimes feel like, oh, can I talk about this? Do I know enough about this? Yeah. Because I was not raised with the culture that strong as like my other members of my family. But also then if I'm talking to someone who's not South Asian, I don't really feel imposter syndrome. I feel like I can confidently talk about it because I just know more than them. Yeah. But if you're talking to someone who knows more than you, then it's like, oh, I don't know.
The running theme here seems to be like, it really depends on like the situation.
It does.
Every answer's been like, well, in this situation, this, but in this situation. But it's so true.
It is true. I feel like you put on a different hat when you're in different rooms.
Yeah. And sometimes I find like, especially when people come on the podcast and they'll be like talking about something South Asian, and even though I know it's okay for me to be like, oh, I don't really know what they're speaking about, I'll be like, yeah, as if I know what they're talking about. I'm like, I fucking don't have a clue.
Oh my God, I know exactly what you mean. And you're like, yeah, I have no idea what you're saying.
I've literally not got a clue. This is a bit of a wild question, because when I was like figuring out what I wanted to talk to you about, like I wanted to, obviously we'll get onto the fitness and wellness side of things, but I kind of wanted to just talk about more like general stuff in terms of like your experiences being South Asian and dating came to mind.
Yeah.
I had my cousin Kiri on, and she did like a whole episode on dating as a South Asian, and it was pretty jokes. Yeah. But do you find that like you are sort of restricted in, I don't know, like who you date, or your feelings towards how you go about dating because of your religion, your culture, your heritage, your parents?
Yeah, so such a tricky one. It's so tricky. So I was like in a really long relationship. I was in a 6-year relationship, which I got out of last year. I ended, and it was a sticking point for us in that the whole religion thing, you know, it's like, it's really tricky for me because I can't see myself dating someone who is Pakistani. Never say never. You never know. I don't know who I'm going to meet. I just don't tend to go for them.
No, I know, yeah.
But I still have that side of me, like I want my kids to be raised with the religion in their lives. Yeah. So it's definitely a thought in the back of my mind always. And it's hard dating outside of your culture when people don't really understand things. Like just going off of like that relationship, I remember at first he didn't get that my parents were strict.
Right.
I was 19 when I met him, so
okay, yeah,
I was like, I was really young. I was like still a baby, and I hadn't like gone on holiday with a boyfriend before. He didn't get why I couldn't go on holiday with him. And it was so difficult to try and explain these things because to someone, I mean, obviously now, like, I'm 26, I can kind of do what I want. But at the time, it was like, they were a lot more funny about things. And it's so hard to try to explain to someone who just has no idea, is so unfamiliar with the concept of a strict parent or a parent trying to dictate what you can and can't do. They just don't get it. They're like, oh, just tell them you're going. It's like,
no,
like a stuff for a lot. Like
a stuff for a lot, literally. But the thing is that I still even feel like this now at 28. Yeah. I'm still like, oh, I have to ask them. I have to ask them.
I have to ask my parents.
I can't just say I'm going on holiday. I'd be like, they say to me though, you don't have to ask. But I know I don't have to ask. But if I just said to them, I'm going, my mum would be like, what?
Really? How interesting. What? I make a point now out of saying, having my autonomy and saying I'm doing instead of asking to do.
It's funny as well because my parents live in Dubai.
Yeah.
They can't even stop me.
What are they going to do?
What are they going to do? Anyway, but yeah, so he wasn't Pakistani.
No, he wasn't.
So he didn't have like that understanding of
it at all. And didn't get it, and it took a lot of explaining, and I was just it's so hard to explain to someone who just isn't in the culture.
But then, so if you don't want to be with a Pakistani guy, but then you want someone to understand the culture, how does it work, Juju?
Literally, where do we go? Where do we go from here? Like, what's the middle ground?
And how comfortable are you with introducing someone to your parents and stuff like that? What stage does it have to be like legit for you to?
I mean, it would have to be like you are fully my boyfriend, obviously, but like I want to be like serious about that person. Like I want to be like, I'm pretty sure I can I can see you in my life. Like,
but religion and the culture doesn't necessarily like play into it.
Not necessarily. I mean, odds are I'm not gonna do.
What is that? Why do you not imagine yourself being with a Pakistani guy?
I don't want to talk badly about
things. Don't say anything you don't want to say.
It's just generally like going off of my cousins and kind of their mindsets and stuff. And I also did have a boyfriend who was Muslim before this one. It just
didn't go well.
It just scarred me a little bit, you know? Like, it wasn't really the vibe for me. I really don't like being controlled.
Yeah.
And I feel like not to speak for everyone,
but that's your experience at the end of the day.
But it is. It's my. I feel like my experience has kind of put a little tainted it a little bit.
Yeah, know? I have that same thing about Virgo men.
Okay, fine.
Fuck them.
Okay, yeah.
Anyway,
in the bin.
I hope none of you two in here are Virgo men. I love you. Great. Anyway, what do I want to do now? Oh yeah, song. So. Each guest always brings on 2 songs. One that can be a little bit more South Asian-y. It doesn't have to be like a Desi tune. Mm-hmm. And then another one which is just whatever you're loving at the moment. So let's start by going with the South Asian one, shall we?
Okay, cool.
Just let us know what it is, why you picked it.
The first one I will pick my cousins Cruella because they are Pakistani.
Nice.
And they actually are like, they talk about the culture so much, like big up the culture so much. Like you need to look on their Instagram. I'm sure you would like actually love their merch. It's really sick.
Maybe they should come on the podcast.
Oh my god, they should. They live in LA, but they absolutely should.
Damn.
They would love to though. Anyway, the song is called Drive Away by Cruella.
Perfect.
And then the other song I just can't stop listening to right now is Love Language by SZA.
Okay, cool. Why is that one that you just like? What about it is making you that you love it so much?
You know when you just get absolutely addicted to a song? I really absorb the energy of music, and I just think it's like a nice little vibe to play in the morning, you know, when you wake up.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's cute.
But it is and it's a bit slinky as well. I was listening to it. I was like, ooh, yeah. What do you know what your love language is?
Oh my god, people always ask me this and I sound so ridiculous, but I genuinely think all of them.
Great.
I love to be loved in every way.
Well, let's play this tune by Cruella, and then the next one is going to be by SZA. All right, so you are a fitness and wellness woman. And you're founder of the wellness platform Cloud9 Collective. Yeah. So how would you describe Cloud9 Collective?
So Cloud9 Collective is a fitness and wellness platform. It's very female focused. So everyone who's subscribed is a female. The main thing that I really wanted as a message when I was launching Cloud9 was to work out, because it's good for your mind and not just good for your body. That's why I actually called it Cloud9 Collective, because obviously being on Cloud9 means like you feel amazing.
You feel great. Yeah.
And I didn't want it to be so much about like get shredded. Like, it's not my vibe at all. No. I feel like there's like the fitness industry can be really toxic.
Yeah.
And I just wanted kind of like a happy, kind, safe space for women to work out and like feel great about themselves. And like, it's fine to have aesthetic goals, obviously, but I just wanted it to be a bit more than that.
Yeah. And what made you want to like get into this industry and like create this platform?
So I had like a really bad body image growing up. I had like, my sister is older, and I always had this massive like stigma. I had this just thing in my head that she was like the skinny one, she was the pretty one, and especially in our culture, the way that you look is just so important. Yeah. You need to have fair skin. You need to be slim. You need to this and that. And there's just a list of ridiculous things. Yeah. And they would always, I just remember so distinctly, like going to weddings and people would look at Iman and be like, oh, like, you're so beautiful. And then literally just look at me and be like, oh. And I'm not exaggerating. I remember this so clearly. It literally is like a core memory from when I was a child.
Trauma.
Yeah, it happened like a lot. And when you go and visit family, they'll be like, oh, let's look at you. Like, what do you look like? Oh, you've lost weight. Oh, you put on weight. Oh,
yeah, the weight thing is such a thing. Oh my God.
It's a huge thing. And I feel like that created quite a stigma in my head. I had such an insecurity about it. And I had a really bad relationship with my body. So when I got to maybe like 14 years old, I was like, I need to lose weight. And I wasn't like big even. I was a normal size person. I just had this huge stigma in my head because of these insecurities. Yeah. And then I kind of like started losing weight for all the wrong reasons. I started like calorie counting. I would like stare at myself in the mirror and just like start crying because I hated the way I looked so much. And it got really bad and it was really toxic. And I wouldn't say I had like an eating disorder, but I was close. Like, I was obsessed. Yeah. And I guess when I got to my 20s and was figuring out what I wanted to do, I've been on such a journey by that point of coming to a point where I've learned to like love my body, work out for the right reasons. And it took a lot to get there. And I think that also the like social media didn't help at all as well. So there was a lot in there. There was like the culture thing, there was the social media thing that I felt like were a lot of reasons why I had a really bad relationship with my body. And it got to a point where I was like, you know what, I'd love to put a message out there and like go on a mission basically to help people who are either teenagers or in their 20s to create like a healthier relationship with their bodies and not go through what I went through.
Yeah, and I feel like the energy of like your whole like Instagram and Cloud9 Collective is about nourishing your body. Yes. And it is like everything just looks delicious as well. Like all of the like smoothies, the food you make, but really like accessibly delicious. Yes. Not like this is an impossible recipe that I can't make. And all of the workouts you do, a lot of them are without weights and stuff like that. So it makes it easier for people. Yes. But I just want to go rewind a second. But with what you said about this whole list with South Asians of like things that you know, how we need to look and how we need to be, especially for women, why do you think there's so much on our aesthetic value in South Asian culture?
So that you can find a husband.
Yeah.
That's literally
I was hoping you were going to say that. Yeah. I was like, let's go there.
Yeah. No, it's true because like that's like the goal. I mean, if we're going way back to the proper traditional culture, that is the goal. You need to find a husband, get married, be a housewife.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful actually that my parents did not teach me that at all. Like my mum was always like, you need your own career, like you need to be able to hold your own, like never rely on a man. She really drilled that into us. I think because she had the opposite drilled into her from such a young age.
Yeah.
And she really hates that and she resents that and wishes she had like a big career and stuff.
Yeah.
So she was like, that was my biggest regret and I don't want that for you guys, so make sure that you are like independent women.
Honestly, that's so great though, because I feel like that is a downfall of so many South Asian women, and I feel so deeply for them because I don't have that pressure either of like forced to get married, and not even an arranged marriage, but just like just hammering at them all the time, like the aunties, the grandmas, the mums, the dads saying you need to get married, you need to get married, or you're going to be left on the shelf. So people end up settling, and then it all becomes about aesthetic as well, like the reason you're not married is because you're too fat, or like your nose is too big, or like your eyebrows aren't perfect, or some shit like that.
It all comes down to the way you look.
Yeah, totally. And I've actually never touched on that really on the podcast before, so it's been it's good to talk about that. Moving on then, what do I want to talk about now? Okay, so you are probably one of the few, and I mean I could be wrong about this because I don't know the wellness and fitness world like that well, but you're one of the few, I feel, like brown faces in the wellness and fitness world. I feel like we don't see a lot of South Asian like trainers or I don't know, I keep saying wellness instructors around. Is that true? If so, why do you think that is?
I mean, it's interesting because I've had a lot of girls message me saying that, like, you're doing it for the brown girls, and like we haven't seen another. Whether it's true or not, I don't know, but people have said this to me, and it's just the loveliest feeling ever.
Yeah.
To know that I can help someone that feels like they can relate to me, because at the end of the day, with something like this, if you're looking for someone to help you with like your fitness and your wellness, you do want to feel like you can relate to that person. If they're completely unrelatable, then it's like, oh, well, I'm never going to get there. Like, that's just unattainable.
Yeah, totally. And this is what I've got written down here, actually, like the importance of having a role model or someone that you can look up to, or someone whose training program you're using that you see a bit of yourself in, because otherwise it feels impossible that, okay, well, Juju's doing these ab workouts, but she's completely different from me, so I'm not going to be able to look like that, or I'm not going to not even look like that, but I'm not going to be able to get the results that I want because her body's completely different. And it is true, because South Asian bodies are completely different to other bodies.
No, it is true. And it's I've had a lot of people DM me saying like that, you know, it's like so amazing that you're like South Asian, you're doing this, you're Pakistani and you're doing this, like and it's great. It's actually the best feeling. I didn't do it on purpose. It was like the happiest accident ever. I just realized like, oh my god, most of the people that follow me are actually Asian. And I'll realize that a lot of the names that I see on Cloud9, or even like the events I have, like there are a lot of Asian girls, and it's just the nicest feeling. Like,
well, people obviously like looking for something, and they found it with you, and that's really, really nice. Do you think that the part of the reason why we don't see like so many brown girls in the fitness world is that whole thing of covering up your body and like being respectful to religion?
I think that perhaps that might be part of it. When I first started posting fitness content, I definitely thought about it. Now it's like, whatever, I just kind of do what I want. But at the beginning, it was definitely a thing for me. But I also think that it's not really in our culture to work out. Like,
no,
it's just not. Like, we weren't really raised with that in our culture generally. So I think that's a big part of it as well. If you have quite cultured parents, generally, you probably weren't raised with that in your household, the whole like habit of working out, and eating well and looking after your body. So I think that's a big part of it as well.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I think that's definitely an aspect. It's just not something that we're used to, and that's why it's important that people like you exist. You know, because even actually I don't know if I should say this.
Go on.
I'm going to say it.
Just say
Even actually in the gym, I mean, we go to the same gym. I don't see that many brown people in there. Like many brown girls. Like I seen you, me, and I think one other girl I saw once and I was like, oh, hi. So I don't know, like I'm being a bit stereotypical here and maybe I'm going to get cancelled now for saying that, but...
No, I do think that it's not as much of a thing in our culture for sure. We're quite sedentary as a people.
As a people. Have you received ever any like backlash from like revealing your body and stuff?
Yes.
You have.
And let's keep in mind that I'm not even revealing my body.
You're wearing gym kit.
I'm just wearing leggings and a crop top.
You do look good though.
Thank you. Yeah, I have received hate for it for sure. More on like TikTok. And more so not just me but like my family. I mean it's ridiculous stuff and I really don't get offended by it honestly because the people who are writing these comments just do not even affect my life. I don't rate their opinions. Like it doesn't bother me, but I have had stuff like, oh, you're showing your shoulders, like you're going to hell, like
you're showing your shoulders, you're going to hell.
I swear. No, I think I posted a video like of my mum and it was like dead of summer.
Wow.
And she had her shoulders showing and someone literally commented, your family is going to...
People literally need to get a life.
I know.
Whoever that person is going to
The
hell.
ironic thing is that they're doing more of a sin by writing these hate comments than my mum is by in her house showing her shoulders.
Oh, God forbid. With that though, like generally, is it quite difficult for you like mentally when you receive like this hate stuff? Because I wanted to know about your mental health in general. Like, how is it?
Hate comments really don't faze me.
Yeah.
In like the ones about that, I've been quite lucky that I haven't really had a lot. I feel I always say this, like everyone on like my Instagram and my TikTok, like I feel like they're all just such lovely girls. Like, and anyone who's ever come up to me is just so lovely. I do think I've created like a really nice little community. Yeah. But the hate comments, they don't bother me. I mean, maybe I've not had ones bad enough to bother me.
You know what? The fact that you even said like maybe I'm lucky, it's like that you're lucky to not have hate, as if it's like but no one should have hate.
I know.
It shouldn't even be a question of luck.
I know.
You know,
it sucks, but it always happens, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So it's just like inevitable.
Yeah. No. It's true. It does, and
yeah.
It sucks, but it especially if you're going to put yourself out there, then
exactly.
Kind of like
sadly have to expect it. But I have been really lucky with it.
With your kind of mental health journey itself, has it been quite like supported by your family? Because I've spoken about this before on the podcast that South Asians and mental health is not really a thing we talk about.
Massively. My family are so supportive. Yeah. My mum is actually like studying to be a counsellor.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I mean they're all so supportive. Like they're really encouraging, and like if I'm ever going through anything that's difficult, I mean I've been really lucky with my mental health. I haven't like massively suffered, but you know, if any of us are ever going through anything, we all like are there to support each other, and it's never a case of like brush it under the rug, like
which is often such a mentality in South Asian culture. Yeah,
it definitely is, but I've been lucky to not have that and have like really supportive family who are always like, talk about your feelings, like we're here for you. Yeah,
I think having like two girls as well.
Yes.
And my mum and dad have been the same with me. Like I think also growing up in like a Western society, and my dad's second generation also. So I think that just adds to it
definitely.
A little bit. Before we move on to the little final part of the podcast, have you got maybe three hacks of lifting your mood if you're ever feeling low?
3 hacks for me. I'm going to be like, I mean, if you follow me on Instagram, you just know I'm going to say what I'm going to say. Is like do a workout. Like, I swear to you, doing a workout. And I mean, it literally gives you endorphins.
Yeah, literally.
So it's gonna lift your mood. No matter what, no matter how bad I felt, it always helps me to do a workout.
Even if it's just for like 10 minutes afterwards, you feel better.
Yeah, and I will like blast like aggressive music that hypes me up, that makes me feel like that bitch, and I'll just do my workout and I'll instantly just feel like better. I'm like, what was I even sad about?
Yeah.
And then another one definitely for me would be like journaling. So I mean, I do like a really quick one every morning, and just literally writing down 3 things that you're grateful for. Even if you don't feel like it, even if it's the stupidest thing, like my hair looks good today.
Yeah.
I don't know why, it just puts you in, it just switches your mindset. It just takes you on a little detour to thinking a bit more positively. So that's like a big one for me. And then another one, I think just like talking to someone that because sometimes it's not a matter of ignoring your emotions and trying to do something to detour. Sometimes you do just need to talk about things to make yourself feel better.
Yeah, 100%.
So literally calling your best friend, calling your sister, calling your mum, and just saying, I feel really shit.
Yeah.
And just talking about it, and then after that, take a breath, do your workout, feel like a bad bitch.
Talking is like such a release.
Yeah,
as well.
For sure.
And I also just want to say on the gratitude list as well, it's important, I feel like, when you're making the gratitude list to like have a second though when you write it down, not just go, okay, I'm grateful for this.
Yes.
To actually be like, allow yourself to be like, I don't know, get to sink in.
Yes.
You know?
100%.
Because otherwise you're just kind of doing it for the sake of it, even though sometimes you do have to do it for the sake of it.
Yeah. But you know what? On the days that I find it harder to think of things, they're the days when I actually feel better afterwards.
Yeah.
Because you really have to sit there and think, like, what are the good things? Like, you have to go through a list of all the good things. And it really does help you to take your time with
Not just being like, I'm grateful for my shoes.
Yeah.
Like,
literally. Like,
they are nice, but like, cool. Okay, so the last thing I want to ask you is something I ask everyone that comes on the podcast, and it is, have you got a confessional, something that people wouldn't expect about you because you're South Asian?
Goodness me. Something people wouldn't expect. I have like a funny story I guess I could tell of something people wouldn't expect. Like, and this is touching on, again, like my parents and how, well, my mum specifically, and how she always said to, you know, be independent, be your own woman.
Yeah.
So when we were younger, she used to obviously read us like storybooks. And she used to read us like Cinderella, for example. And she used to change the ending of Cinderella so that instead of getting married and finding the prince, Cinderella would go to university and get a job and be like a successful businesswoman.
I love your mum.
I literally didn't, like, I genuinely thought that was the end of Cinderella.
Really?
Like, for quite a while, I thought that was the end of Cinderella.
But little Juju at school, like, no, that's not how it ends. That's what are you talking about? She's at uni. Oh, I love that. And that is the complete opposite to the mindset of so many South Asian mothers.
Exactly, which is why I think it's quite unexpected.
That's maybe one of my favourite ones, actually, that someone said. I love it. Right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Yes. And thank you so much for listening.